Are the US and China getting along? And what might that mean for the rest of us? President Trump says a meeting between Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and officials from China who are in Spain right now went very well. Mr. Trump also hinted they struck a deal on the future of TikTok. The president said he'll be speaking with Chinese President Xi Jinping Friday. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady is here in Studio 55 with more on all of this. Kelly, good morning to you. Great to see you this Monday. So what, are the US and China getting along? And might this mean a TikTok deal? How does it look from your point of view?
So it sounds like there's a framework for a deal. So both Treasury Secretary Bessent as well as the president on Truth Social today, I do think that we have that post ready earlier, said, hey, there is a certain platform that young people like that we think we're going to be able to save. There it is. And said, quote, they will be very happy. I'll be speaking to President Xi on Friday. Now, here's the thing, Earl. We have been back and forth when it comes to this, right? When we look back at when these different points where we've extended those trade negotiations with China, TikTok has always been very much in the conversation. And the reason is that a Chinese company, ByteDance, owns TikTok. That's where the security concerns are, that their algorithm, they could have access to information about you and me. But China is going to have to approve that sale. Now, ByteDance has been very clear that they don't want to give up the algorithm. And that's the substance of it. So yes, there may be a framework for a deal. There may be a buyer here that the Chinese would have to agree to. But my big sort of so what, is it going to be the TikTok that you and I know if you don't actually have that algorithm as part of the deal?
And for the Chinese, does the deal mean they get to own the proprietary information of the algorithm if anything moves forward? So we'll certainly watch this closely. People probably scrolling as we speak. The Federal Reserve meets this week, and we might be seeing some interest rate cuts. You've been hinting, experts have been hinting. How might that affect our viewers' finances?
So basically, the Fed looks at trying to keep inflation low and employment at sort of a full percentage in the labor market. And that's basically 4 to 4.4% unemployment. And we are within that band right now. If you lower interest rates, it makes it cheaper to go out and borrow money, right? Your interest that you might get as a small business on a loan, an auto loan, a mortgage would come down. And so that is sort of the theory that, well, if it makes it cheaper for you and me to go do those things, you might see more economic growth. Businesses invest more, hire more, because if they're going to build that restaurant, that expansion, they're going to need construction workers. So that's the idea. Of course, a quarter-point rate cut, it doesn't mean the economy is about to go gangbusters.
Right.
These things take time, but that's the theory behind it.
And there are some questions about who exactly will be in this Fed meeting. We've been reporting, the administration is trying to block Lisa Cook and add a gentleman named Stephen Moran. Is this a threat to the Fed's independence? And help us understand what a change of staff might mean.
So let's take Moran for a second, because that is in replacement for a different governor that has already stepped down, and that term goes through January. The vote, the Senate confirmation is happening this evening. We are expecting that to go forward unless there's some sort of big curveball that we don't see coming. And that term would only go and through January. We do expect that he would vote yes on an interest rate cut, but we also know from investors and economists that that is likely going to happen anyway. The Federal Reserve is getting prepared to cut interest rates. The Cook piece is separate. There are allegations of fraud. The president is trying to remove Lisa Cook for alleged mortgage fraud. More documents coming out over the weekend that sort of paint a different picture from her perspective. It's a lot of questions about the independence, but it's one person. You still have a lot of other people, a lot of other board of governors on the board that would have a say in the room. It would just be one more voice that maybe says things that the president would want.
See, this is why it's great to chat with Kelly. She brings the temperature down. She says, hey, folks, pay attention, but don't know one thing is everything.
Exactly.
Great to see you, Kelly. Thanks for being here.